Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. Julian here for another Drops episode, this one for week 22 of the fantasy hockey season. Guys, this is the fantasy playoffs, so dropping players now and adding the right ones to replace them is going to make or break your season. You've done all the work you needed to do to get to this point. Now let's try and win you that fantasy hockey championship. Before we jump into which players you should consider dropping, drop a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you do want to take your sport to the next level, there's a link to my Patreon down below, or there's a join button right here down below as well. Let's jump into it now and let's take a look at some forwards that you should consider cutting from your team. And first on the list is Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers. He has had an absolutely abysmal season, and it isn't looking like it's going to change, guys. He's playing currently on the third line, and he's just not putting up any kind of points or peripherals worth noting. If you're in an insanely deep league, you kind of have to hold on to him and cross your fingers, but honestly, even then, he can still be dropped. That's how bad he has been. Next on the list is Brock Boeser of the Vancouver Canucks. And there is a star next to his name because Brock Boeser is somebody that has a very favorable schedule in the second week of the playoffs next week. So if you can afford to stash him, you can do so. But if you're at risk of losing this week because you have Brock Boeser in your lineup, you can definitely drop him. He's someone who has been really, really bad lately, isn't on a very good line right now. He's arguably on the third line right now. Yeah, he's still top power play, but he hasn't produced in many games and is not putting up very good peripherals. It's not encouraging for Brock Boeser right now. That being said, yeah, Vancouver has a pretty favorable schedule next week, so hopefully he can turn things around between now and then. But as of right now, he is actually really hindering your fantasy team. Jared McCann of the Seattle Kraken is someone who I've always been a big fan of, but as of late hasn't done a whole lot of anything. Now, Seattle does play Tuesday and Wednesday this week, both days that you probably have room for Jared McCann. So if you have him, don't drop him right away. After Wednesday's games, you definitely can drop him though, because Seattle doesn't play till Saturday, and Saturday's quite a busy night, and you're probably benching him that night anyway. So swap out McCann after Wednesday and grab somebody that's going to help you and actually get you some games this week so that you make sure that you win this week. Then Ivan Barbashev of the Vegas Golden Knights has had a pretty good season overall, but lately he's been playing on the third, or you could even argue that that's the fourth line in Vegas. With that kind of deployment and no power play one, he doesn't have a whole lot of value. He's not going to put up a lot of peripherals, and he's not going to put up a lot of points. That's a very easy drop for me. For defenseman Neil Pionk, it's looking like there's a pretty good chance that he misses the rest of the fantasy season. He's week to week, and for most of you, there is only 3 weeks left of fantasy. If you do end in week 25, there's 4 weeks left of fantasy, so there's a chance that he comes back. And if you do have the IR spot, you don't necessarily have to drop Neil Pionk, even if you are ending in week 24. But there's a good chance that he may not come back. So he is droppable if you do have too many guys on the IR already. Then we have Jackson Lacombe of the Anaheim Ducks, and he has been put back on the top power play, which is encouraging, is good. But if you are in a shallower league, he hasn't done a whole lot of anything. In his last 5 games, he has only a single assist and pretty poor peripherals. If you're in deep league, you're hanging on to him. Do not drop him. But you gotta hope and pray that he gets that form back that he had just a couple weeks ago when he was going off for over a point per game. And then Filip Hronek, who honestly hasn't been too bad. But with the return of Quinn Hughes, Hronek is no longer a power play one guy in Vancouver. He's the type of guy who can still put up some decent peripherals, so if you are in a deep league, you are going to hold on to Filip Hronek. If you're in a shallower one, there may be better defensemen or even forwards out there that you can stream instead of Filip Hronek, because with Quinn Hughes back, his value is severely diminished. Then we have Brayden McNabb of the Vegas Golden Knights, and I really don't like Vegas' schedule much this week. They play only Thursday. They don't play any games until Thursday, and then they play Saturday and Sunday, which are all fairly busy nights, and McNabb doesn't bring all that much to the table. Yeah, he gives you a somewhat decent floor with peripherals, But even then, the floor isn't that good. He doesn't need to be owned in 28% of leagues. If there's somebody out there that you like a little bit more than McNabb, who has a better schedule, I'd say go for it. And finally, Slavin. Jacob Slavin is not someone who is great in fantasy. I am absolutely shocked that he's owned in 22% of leagues. His floor is okay at best, but there's not much of a ceiling there because he doesn't put up a lot of points. So there's probably better options out there in the majority of leagues that have Jacob Slavin owned. As far as goalies go, Ilya Samsonov is on my list this week. And not because I think he's bad. He's still getting every second start in Vegas and is doing decently. But the thing is, like I said, Vegas only has 3 games this week: Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's Aiden Hill's turn to start on Thursday. So Hill probably gets Thursday and Sunday, and Samsonov probably only gets the game on Saturday. And there's a good chance that you already have 2 starting goalies on Saturday. Plus, Samsonov, holding him just for 1 game, man, it's a little bit rough to do. Obviously, if you're in good shape this week and you can hold them for next week, that's absolutely fantastic. But if you're looking like you may not win this week, it may be worth grabbing somebody else who can get you more games than this single game that Samsonov is going to get this week. Then Cam Talbot of the Detroit Red Wings. Looks like he's lost his starting job to Peter Mrazek. And to make matters worse, Alex Lyon is on the team as well, so they're rotating 3 goalies, which is tough. And to make matters even worse for you Cam Talbot owners, Detroit only plays 2 games this week. Cam Talbot could get 1. He could get 0. I'm not super hopeful about the amount of games that Cam Talbot will get this week. Detroit's schedule is bad, and he hasn't been good. Mrazek has been better. He's not someone I want to gamble on this week, especially in the fantasy playoffs. Then we have Connor Ingram of the Utah Hockey Club, and he is in the player assistance program, and Vejmelka has been incredible on top of that. If you own Ingram, you might as well drop him at this point. Unless you have the IR space, then I guess you can hold on to him, but he probably isn't returning for the rest of the fantasy season, and even if he does, Vejmelka is the guy in Utah. Then we have Semyon Varlamov of the New York Islanders, and it looks like he's probably not going to return either this season, so he's a pretty safe drop. And finally, Marc-Andre Fleury is 17% rostered and probably gets 0 starts this week. Minnesota only has 3 games this week, and none of them are back-to-back sets, so there's a good chance that Gustafsson gets all 3 games. If you do have a bye week this week or something like that, or you're pretty much, you're going to win this week, I guess you can hold on to Fleury because Minnesota does play a back-to-back set Monday and Tuesday next week. But other than that, there's not really a reason to be owning Marc-Andre Fleury right now. And that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped. Good luck in your playoff matches, guys.